Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. The big news at this hour is coming in from Pune, where at least 18 employees of a chemical factory in Pune are confirmed dead and several missing as a massive fire broke out in what was a sanitizer manufacturing unit. Officials say that the fire is under control now and the cooling off operation is on, but several said to be still missing and rescue ops continue. So the situation still being watched out for. Look at those visuals, very disturbing at this point. We'll bring you the latest as we have more details, but switching over to the big story of the day. A major change in India's vaccine policy. Now the Prime Minister says there will be free vaccines to all states for above 18 as well. Remember, so far the centre was sending in vaccines free of cost to states, but that was only for those above 45 years. That has now seen a change. Centre will now procure vaccines for the states as well, and they will now be procuring 75%. Remember, earlier the centre was procuring 50% of the vaccines and the state had to do their own procurement. 25%, however, doses will be now procured, continue to be procured, by the way, by the private sector. Those who want can pay as well, but the news at this hour in the private sector is that they will not be able to charge more than 150 rupees as service charge if you are paying for the vaccine at a private hospital.
21 जून सोमवार से देश के हर राज्य में 18 वर्ष से ऊपर की उम्र के सभी नागरिकों के लिए भारत सरकार राज्यों को मुफ्त वैक्सीन मुहैया कराएगी। वैक्सीन निर्माताओं से कुल वैक्सीन उत्पादन का 75% हिस्सा भारत सरकार खुद ही खरीदकर राज्य सरकारों को मुफ्त देगी। कई राज्य सरकारों ने फिर कहा कि वैक्सीन का काम डिसेंट्रलाइज किया जाए और राज्यों पर छोड़ दिया जाए। तरह तरह के स्वर उठे, जैसे कि वैक्सीनेशन के लिए एज ग्रुप क्यों बनाए गए। हमने सोचा कि राज्य ये मांग कर रहे हैं, उनका उत्साह है, तो चलो भाई 25% का काम उन्हीं को सुपुर्द कर दिया जाए। पूरी दुनिया में वैक्सीन की क्या स्थिति है, इसकी सच्चाई से भी राज्य परिचित हुए। एक तरफ मई में सेकेंड वेव, दूसरी तरफ वैक्सीन के लिए लोगों का बढ़ता रुझान। मई में 2 सप्ताह बीतते बीतते कुछ राज्य खुले मन से ये कहने लगे कि पहले वाली व्यवस्था ही अच्छी थी।
So good move there by the Prime Minister comes after much criticism came in, not just by the opposition but by the Supreme Court as well. But the question remains on where are the vaccines? Even if we get it, even if the states get it for free, do we have enough supply at this point? But talking about vaccines, well, the Delhi Chief Minister now has a new plan to try and tackle with vaccine hesitancy, if at all. He's saying that he will now launch a door-to-door survey to vaccinate people. And he says if that can happen for polling, if it can happen for votes, why not for the vaccine? The next report takes you through the details.
अब दिक्कत ये आ रही है कि जितने हमने दिल्ली में वैक्सीनेशन सेंटर्स खोले हैं 45 साल से ऊपर की उम्र के लोग, उसमें बहुत कम आ रहे हैं अपने से। उसके मद्देनजर ये तय किया गया कि लोगों की इंतजार किए बिना अब हमें लोगों तक जाना पड़ेगा।
The goal is to vaccinate 30 lakh people in 30 days. To do this, the Delhi government will be banking on one of India's greatest success stories, its election machinery.
आज जिन 70 वार्ड्स के अंदर इसकी शुरुआत की जा रही है, आज पहला दिन है, उन 70 वार्ड्स के बूथ लेवल ऑफिसर्स की ट्रेनिंग की जा रही है। ये बूथ लेवल ऑफिसर्स अगले 2 दिन तक अपने अपने बूथ में हर घर में जाएंगे, हर घर में जाके उनसे पूछेंगे आपके घर में 45 साल से ऊपर की उम्र के कौन है। अगर उन्हें वैक्सीन नहीं लगाए तो वो उन्हें वैक्सीनेशन लगवाने का स्लॉट दे के आएंगे।
Only 15% of Delhi's 45 plus population has been fully vaccinated so far. Vaccination for the 18 to 44 age group has already been on hold at government centers for over 2 weeks due to shortage of vaccine stock.
मेरे ख्याल से तो बहुत अच्छा डिसीजन लिया जिन्होंने, क्योंकि मैंने 2-4 दिन पहले सुना भी था किसी स्टेट में शायद लोग वैक्सीनेशन ना लगाने की वजह से छुप रहे हैं, घर में बाहर छुप रहे हैं या नदी में कूद जा रहे हैं. लोगों को समझाना चाहिए कि वैक्सीनेशन का मेरा गुजारा नहीं है. और जो उन्होंने 70 वार्ड वाली बात कही वो भी बहुत अच्छी बात है.
The Delhi government has said that it will follow the same initiative for the 18 to 44 age group as well once it has enough doses for them. In New Delhi with camera person Manu Nair, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
And with the lockdown in place and what is hopefully the slowing down of the second wave, the number of new cases in Bengaluru are also reducing. But the case fatality rate or the CFR is high. Maya Sharma explores why is that.
Ramesh was just 42 years old. He was hospitalized after testing positive for COVID. Spent time in the ICU, but with severe lung damage, he could not survive. He leaves a wife and a 7-year-old son.
ಡ್ರೈವಿಂಗ್ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಲಾಕ್ಡೌನ್ ಆದಾಗಿಂದ ಎಲ್ಲೂ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ಕೋವಿಡ್-19 ಬಂದು 70 ಡೇಸು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಜಯದೇವರಲ್ಲಿ ಅಡ್ಮಿಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಈಗ ಗುರುವಾರ 12:30 ತೀರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರು.
While the vast majority of COVID patients recover, each death is heartbreak. The case fatality rate in Bengaluru, in data released on Sunday, was 7.71%, compared to the 2.62% overall in Karnataka. 187 deaths were recorded. Although the BBMP chief reiterates, the deaths recorded on one day may not all have happened on one day.
If you see the health bulletin which is issued by the state government every day, these numbers are pertaining to deaths that have happened 20, 30, 40 days back. Kindly draw your own conclusions based on that.
As the total number of cases are going down, the denominator tends to change. So that is what is leading to a rise in the ratio.
Also, with the number of cases in the city coming down and death numbers not coming down at the same rate, the ratio of deaths to cases is higher.
Since the number of positive cases are reducing and the people who were admitted earlier, they were in ICU and all other facilities. So they've been in hospital admitted for past more than 15 days, 20 days. These cases, we are seeing more fatality. They were in ventilators, who are in ICU. Their demise of the deaths is increasing the case fatality rate.
Case numbers are coming down, but the number of cumulative deaths in the city of Bengaluru has more than doubled in the last 1 month. Each death leaving grief in its wake for the loved ones of those lost to the virus. With Kumar and Govind, Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV.
And as India unlocks after the deadly second wave, Delhi, Mumbai, Tamil Nadu begin easing of the lockdown. Parts of India begin cautiously resuming activities which have been on a hold for at least 2 months. Now, in Delhi, shops and malls, markets open with restriction. Delhi Metro also resumes, but with 50% capacity. Maharashtra, there is a 5-level plan to ease the restrictions, and Mumbai unlocking as well, but without the local trains. Tamil Nadu, there are separate relaxations for 11 hotspot districts and the rest of the state as well.
Little social distancing but mostly masks, as the government allowed offices to reopen after 8 weeks but only for half their workforce. Mumbai's second wave saw a positivity rate as high as 20%, with daily cases crossing 10,000 per day at one point. On day 1, Salim found the going hard. A 45-minute commute was taking him 3 hours at least, as local trains remain banned.
नॉर्मल ट्रेन से ही जाता हूँ।
बस में कितना फर्क है, फिर कितने घंटे का फर्क है?
2-2.5 घंटे का फर्क हो जाता है। 2 जगह लाइन बदली करना पड़ता है। मान खुद से यहाँ लेके आओ, यहाँ से फिर यहाँ बदली करो।
Similar is the case of Mahadev Kadam, who started his journey from Diva on the outskirts of Mumbai at around 8 a.m. and could only reach halfway till Sion by noon.
लेकिन जाके क्या कब करेगा? वो लोग क्या हमको देगा? अभी तक पकड़ नहीं, कुछ नहीं, हम लोग ऐसा ही है।
More time means more cost, as 56-year-old Jaideep Thakkar calculated while changing 3 buses instead of 1 train. He believes those who took vaccine should be allowed to use the train.
पहले महीने के पास 130 रुपए का पास था। अभी पास का खर्चा तो है ही नहीं, रेलवे तो सस्ता पड़ता है। बस में करीबन 1300 रुपए खर्चा आता है महीने का।
Along with shops, salons, restaurants, hotels are also allowed to remain open but till 4 p.m. only. Their main business happens during evenings.
Practically what I see is we've been affected by our business by more than 60 to 70%.
Saturday, Sundays we are not working. So again there is an issue because of that as well. Because Saturday, Sunday is a main peak time for us to earn basically. We'll be suffering, we'll be just getting 35% of the revenue.
Although the crowds were leaner, some people were glad to come out and shop.
As Mumbai prepares to unlock itself, there are still some teething problems as far as commute is concerned, and avoiding overcrowding is still a concern. And if everything has to be shut by 5 p.m., it looks difficult, especially if people are taking 3 to 4 hours to reach their destinations. In Mumbai with Sohit Mishra and camera person Rajendra Dahalkar and Praveen G. Rohit, this is Purva Chitnis for NDTV.
Mohammed is happy that he could reopen his stationery shop in Chennai after 4 weeks of lockdown. The business had already taken a hit with no schools for more than a year. The total shutdown made it worse.
ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமா இருக்கு சார். ஏன்னா வாழ்வாதாரம் ரொம்ப இந்த கொரோனா டைம்ல ரொம்ப பாதிக்கப்பட்டிருக்கோம். இப்போ கவர்மெண்ட் இன்னைக்கு அனௌன்ஸ் பண்ணால இன்னையில இருந்து ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ண கொஞ்சம் சந்தோஷமா இருக்கு.
At this standalone supermarket in Chennai, customers are walking in after nearly a month. Shankar says he still had to pay rent and salaries that add up to 2 lakh rupees.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. More than 50% last 15 days. Yes, sir. Now the time is good compared with the last 15 days.
To help the poor earn their livelihood, the state government has permitted roadside vendors like Devi who sells flowers. Standalone hardware and electrical shops, workshops as well as self-employed electricians, carpenters and housekeeping staff can hope to earn again. Taxis and autos are also back. Tamil Nadu's daily tally has dipped from 38,000 in mid-May to around 20,000 now. But the big worry, 11 hotspot districts including Coimbatore, where numbers are still rising and more restrictions are in place. With export industries permitted to operate there amid fears of spike, it's a tightrope walk for the new government, trying to save both lives and livelihood. In Chennai with Shah Vijay, Sam Daniel, for NDTV.
Shifting our focus to Lakshadweep now, where from underwater to the beaches, the protests continue and residents are saying no to the centre's diktat. Save our Island is what was seen on the banners as a 12-hour hunger strike also was carried out, and protests keep growing there against Lakshadweep administrator. The residents are protesting against a draft regulation that he has floated.
Despite the strict lockdown in Lakshadweep, strong protests. Local residents holding placards at their homes, shops or even underwater across the Union Territory during a 12-hour hunger protest against the administrator Praful Patel and his draft regulations that locals fear will forever change the way of life on the islands.
ദിവസവും നിയമങ്ങൾ ഇറക്കിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കേണ്ട ഈ നിയമങ്ങൾ ലക്ഷദ്വീപിന് തനതായിട്ടുള്ള സംസ്കാരത്തെയും അതിനെ പൈതൃകത്തെയും നശിപ്പിക്കേണ്ടതാണ്. ലക്ഷദ്വീപ് അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്റർ ഇത്തരത്തിലുള്ള നിയമങ്ങളുണ്ട് പിന്മാറണം, ഒപ്പം കേന്ദ്ര സർക്കാർ ലക്ഷദ്വീപ് അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്ററെ തിരിച്ചു വിളിക്കണം.
There are 4 specific draft regulations which allow the acquisition of private land for regional development, a Gunda Act that gives sweeping powers to detain anyone up to an year, a proposed ban on the slaughter consumption of bovine animals on islands where beef is a staple in the diet.
I strongly believe these people are misled by Communist Congress and NCP leaders. My humble request all of you, don't believe false propaganda.
The Lakshadweep administrator is yet to address these concerns directly, even as the locals are trying to get their voices heard.
access to them directly is even more difficult amid this pandemic, as well as the administrative permits that are required to enter Lakshadweep. With camera person SP Babu, Sneha Koshi for NDTV.
They first made headlines for violent protests against the makers of the film Padmavat, and now a hate speech at a Maha panchayat in support of those arrested for beating a man. This is the Karni Sena for you. This happened at one of the most backward areas in the country, and what's shocking is not just the speech, but a massive Maha panchayat called in these troubled COVID times. Ghazali has this report.
A hate speech at a Maha panchayat in support of those arrested for beating to death Asif Khan, a gym trainer. This Maha panchayat in Indri village of New district held last week saw Karni Sena President Surajpal Amu making a hate speech. The Karni Sena is a faction of the Rajput caste prevalent in India.
ये लोग जो है इस वजह से इकट्ठे हुए थे कि किसी भी तरीके से झगड़ा हो जाएगा, झगड़ा होने पर जो है इन लोगों के जो है ना हम ऊपर अपनी बात कहने के लिए तैयार हो जाएंगे और प्रशासन को झुका लेंगे.
12 out of 14 accused named in the FIR have been arrested. They are residents of different villages and a couple of them from the victim's village. But so far no action has been taken against those making hate speech and for organizing Maha panchayats without permission.
जिस संबंध में 12 आदमियों को गिरफ्तार कर लिया गया है, शीघ्र से शीघ्र गिरफ्तार करने में हमारी टीमें लगी हुई हैं, हमारी फोर्स लगी हुई है, भाग नहीं सकता, कोई भी बच नहीं सकता.
Karni Sena President Surajpal Amu made headlines when he launched violent protests against makers of the film Padmavat. Surajpal Amu is close to Haryana's Home Minister Anil Vij. Mewat, one of the most backward districts of the country, as per a Niti Aayog report, has often been in the limelight for communal polarization. In COVID times, when gatherings are banned, such as Maha panchayats will not only risk health concern but also damage social fabric of the society. With Mohammad Ghazali, Joshua Chin for NDTV.